Hey everybody, welcome to the lounge and to this video that is most definitely filmed on 100% ceded land. And what we're going to talk about today is sort of the over-the-top wokeism that's out there, the over-the-top virtue signaling and group mentioning and so on, and kind of give you guys my 2 cents on that, as I do believe it's sort of gotten out of hand, and I didn't realize just quite how bad it had gotten until I became more active on Twitter and realized, how many people have their pronouns in their profile. But first, on this business of ceded and unceded land, you guys must have noticed that certain politicians, particularly in Canada, but also in some other places, have begun various speeches and statements with this speech is being given on the unceded ancestral home of the so and so tribe. And the point there is to kind of pander to one group, show that you care about Aboriginal rights, and so on and so forth. Now, here's at least one problem with that. They use the term unceded. So, what that means is that's not just like a random thing like saying ancestral home. Unceded is a really specific legal term that basically says that the contract over the thing that you're talking about was not a valid contract and a transfer of it had never actually taken place, even if someone claims it has taken place. So every time you say that you're on the unceded land of so and so, you're actually giving them a legal sort of platform on which to request their land back. And if you think that this is impossible or unlikely, that's incorrect. It has actually already happened. So, for example, up in Canada, the government of New Brunswick, which is one of our provinces, has had to tell all of its employees to stop using the term unceded in their emails or in their letters or email signatures because there was an actual Aboriginal tribe that's now wondering, and hey, can we sue to get our land back? And in Oklahoma, the state of Oklahoma in the United States, this is even less of a theoretical problem because there has actually been a person who has argued successfully all the way up to the Supreme Court of the United States that a large segment of Oklahoma, including the city of Tulsa, is actually not in the jurisdiction of the government, but is in the jurisdiction of a tribe which never legally ceded the land. And the governor of Oklahoma has actually described this situation as the most serious and severe crisis that was facing the state. And he said this during COVID. So don't think that it's harmless to use the terms ceded or unceded. These are really specific terms that mean something. And I don't think that pandering to a specific group as part of your political speech or your statement or your letter or anything is a good thing. I don't think that it does anything positive for that group because you're sort of pointing them out, you're isolating them, and yeah, I think that it only breeds resentment. I don't think it does anything positive in the long haul. The other place where you see this sort of incessant verbal signaling is with the pronouns phenomenon. And by the way, I mention this because my kid's superintendent, she actually sends regular emails to all the parents in the district. And this right here is her real email signature on every single email. I blocked a few things out, but you can see that in every single email she writes about the unceded land her email is being written from. She's even started emails like that. And she puts her pronouns in, despite the fact that she actually has a very ordinary female name, and you really wouldn't assume that she wasn't a normal female otherwise. So it really seems the people who suffer from the whole Aboriginal unceded land problem also suffer from this pronouns thing. Now, the original purpose of the pronouns was that if you were trans or queer legitimately, and you couldn't really tell looking at your profile pictures of whatever, or how you identify in terms of gender, then those pronouns were supposed to, help out the person looking at your profile. Instead, it became a thing where all sorts of people put their pronouns as if the whole point is to sort of say, hey, I'm in support of people struggling with their gender identity. And again, I don't think that kind of pandering is helpful. If anything, I think it's divisive, and it's also extremely silly. Like, if you're a person like, let's say, AOC, who we all know is a female and straight and all that kind of thing, and has no particular issues with her gender identity, when someone like her puts her pronouns in her profile, it's just ridiculous. And all it is, by the way, at the end of the day, is compelled speech. Nobody, on the topic of individual liberties, which we often talk about on this channel, nobody is entitled to their own pronouns. Nobody is entitled to demand that anybody else call them by particular pronouns. You're entitled to your name. Your name can be whatever you want. If you are John and you want to be known as Jane the next day, that's within your right. However, what people refer to you as in terms of pronouns is simply not your right. And for anyone who might be thinking, well, Lex, you're not part of the Aboriginal community and you're not part of the trans community, so it's not like any of this has ever been about you, or it affects you or anything. Well, first off, I am part of the Jewish community, and I do once in a while see stuff like this billboard right here. So, this billboard is supposedly calling out quote unquote Jew hate from random passerbys reading the billboard. Now, as a Jew, I don't think that that billboard is helpful to me. I actually think that it's harmful because it's pointing out, the being different, the being in a separate group. It's claiming that there's hate out there, whether or not there is actual hate out there. And I gotta say that as a Jewish person in the 21st century, in my life, I have faced an extremely small amount of prejudice from my ethnicity. I wouldn't say that there's an actual problem with Jew hate out there if I were pressed on it. But yeah, I just wanted to talk about this stuff because this kind of over the top wokeism, there's something wrong with it. And I've also noticed, being on Twitter actively now, I'll link to my Twitter in the description, that the people who are freaking out about COVID and have mask madness and want to wear their masks forever, and the people who do stuff like put their pronouns in their profiles, those are like all the same people. If you made a Venn diagram of those people, it would be like a circle. It's pretty crazy. So I don't know what it is about this ultra wokeism and virtue signaling that's kind of tied into that, but there seems to be something. Maybe it's just because the mask is the ultimate, meaningless virtue signal that you wear on your face. But I almost feel like it's more. I understand that those ultra woke folks also tend to be sort of the most hard left and tend to be all about collectivism and collective responsibility, but yeah, it's just the most bizarre thing because it's really gone in a bunch of weird directions that I think are actually harmful to the goals that these folks using all these statements are trying to make. Anyway, that's my quick hangout for the day. Hope you found it useful. If you did, make sure you subscribe, hit that like button. We'll see you back here next time.